Tonight, a special report on the staggering number of children of disabled parents being taken into care.
We speak to a mother and her child torn apart and reunited after 17 years.
I'm 19 now. That's my whole existence. I can't get that back. But I could have had her growing up.
Hello. Could you imagine having your child taken into care and your disability, over which you have no control, playing a part in that decision? It's been 17 years since the two people here have hugged like this. They've been reunited because Ty found birth mum Jean after being adopted as a toddler. Jean is disabled. She wanted to keep Ty. She fought for Ty, but says because her disability wasn't supported, she wasn't able to. Well, in a special report tonight, we've uncovered figures from councils which show the staggering numbers of children of disabled parents being taken into care. Tessa has the story.
I am a mother with an invisible disability, and I am one of those mothers that asked for help. And I was punished by courts like this behind me because I dared to ask for help.
These mothers want support, not separation. They say their children are being taken into care because of a system prejudiced against disabled parents.
I've been in court proceedings, assessments. They said I couldn't parent my children, so my disability.
I met Anna, who has a moderate learning disability and whose 3 children are in care despite her attempts to keep them. The youngest is 9 months old.
I find it really upsetting and hurt because, I'm not going to see my children now until 18. I wish I did have more support. Yeah, not getting judged and it's not okay.
Of course, Anna's story, like most, is complex. Her learning disabilities make it harder for her to look after a child. She's also on low income and her partner was abusive. Sadly, issues not uncommon for disabled mums. But Anna says, and campaigners agree, that she wasn't given enough support, that assumptions were made about her abilities as a parent, that as a disabled mum, the odds were stacked against her from the start.
We asked councils in England how often a parent's learning disability was a factor in a child being taken into care in the last 3 years. The 116 which responded recorded almost 6,000 times, or 8.1% of the total. The number of parents with a learning disability is very small, an estimated 0.15% of all parents. So they are 54 times more likely to have their children taken into care. And parents with physical disabilities have shared their stories with me too. Jean has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which causes joint pain, extreme fatigue and other symptoms. Ty was 2 when taken into care and adopted, against Jean's will. Years later, an appeal found if Jean's disability had been acknowledged and supported, it may have been possible for her to have kept Ty. The adoption order couldn't be overturned, but she never stopped thinking about her child.
Every second of every day, first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning, last thing you think of when you go to bed at night. You're always wondering, what do you say, and trying to gauge the person if they ask you if you've got children. Because the next question is, where are they? And is it going to be a person who's going to be understanding? Is it going to be a person who thinks that children only get taken away if you've been abusing them?
As soon as Ty turned 18, they found Jean on social media. They've been talking online, and today is their second meeting, their first hug. Ty suspects she has the same condition. There's a lot to take in.
I'd grown up, being told I was adopted. I had always been told that you weren't capable of looking after me, and that you just wouldn't have been a good parent, that you gave me up willingly because of it. I was not told that you had genuinely put up such a struggle to be able to keep me.
Time was stolen from us, and we're being punished for something that was neither of our fault. And we now have a lot of work to try and do to unpack it, to try and get to that normal parent-child relationship.
I'm 19 now. That's my whole existence. I can't get that back. But I could have had her growing up. I could have had someone that fought for me relentlessly. And I didn't get that. And I should have.
And it's still happening. Our investigation found in the last 3 years almost 5,500 times where a parent's physical disability was a factor in a child being taken into care.
Many disabled parents have told me that the reason given for taking their child into care was emotional harm, much harder to define than physical abuse or neglect. Our figures revealed that in more than 2,000 cases, this was cited when a parent had a physical disability, and in almost 2,000 cases where the parent had a learning disability.
These figures include not just actual, but future emotional harm caused by their disability. They are difficult judgments to make.
If you leave children in a situation because you're desperately trying to make it work, when do you say enough is enough? When that child is 3, 4, 5, 6... And the damage it can do is immense. But the question is, are we getting the balance right? Social workers are damned if they do, damned if they don't. It's their heads on a plate. So we've got this risk-averse culture, this lack of support. It's a perfect storm.
And that storm is putting many disabled women off having children altogether.
It's like our lives don't matter, and that includes starting a family. It's like you shouldn't be here and you shouldn't make more of yourselves either. So we're up against enormous discrimination.
Anna is too traumatised, too fearful to have another baby.
Having my third child, it's realised I can't keep it myself through it. It's too much pain and it's hurting.
It's been hard to speak out, but these women want others to see their pain, to understand their fight for change.
Disabled mothers have the right to have children.
As you can see, Tessa joins us in the studio now. It's a heartbreaking story and really difficult decisions. I think it's fair to say that none of those decisions are taken lightly, are they?
No, that's right. These are terribly difficult judgments to make, and it's social workers often having to make these decisions. So we took our findings to the British Association of Social Workers, and what they had to say was really interesting. They say they often have to make decisions when the parent hasn't got the right support in place and hasn't got the right resources. And they say that recommending a child goes into care in that kind of situation is, in their words, heartbreaking. What they want is more guidance and more funding from the government. What the government had to say, well, we asked them to come on for an interview. They said they couldn't, but they did provide us with a statement. They say care is a last resort. They say decisions are based on the needs of the child, and local authorities cannot discriminate based on any protected characteristic, including disability.
But this is the complete opposite of what the women you spoke to told you. They say they do feel discriminated against.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and they want to talk about this. And I think what we've done today is give a voice to a group of people who feel unheard and feel they're not able to shout about something when they feel they're being treated unfairly. This is a really hard story to tell. If you've had any dealings with family courts, you'll know they're closed, so the media can't report on them. In fact, often they can't even tell their own families. But this is something that's so important to discuss. They want to know why funding shouldn't be going to disabled mothers, why it's going more into child protection. Clearly, the current situation isn't working for far too many people.
Well, Tessa, thanks for the moment. We've decided to make our five-phone subject about some of those pressures on services that Tessa's highlighted. Well, we've been asking for your experiences with social care services because of what you've just seen, and also because of our special report at the top of the programme from Tessa as well. What has the FIFO been saying tonight? It's been buzzing away, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was a very, very powerful VT, and I have to say the messages are just as powerful, if not more. Julie from Wakefield says, I have cerebral palsy, and we brought up our son fine. He's now 22 and has a fantastic career, but it's sometimes just wrongly presumed that if someone has a disability, they can't possibly bring up their own child. This needs to change. Lisa says, myself and my husband tried to get custody of our grandson in 2009, but because she's disabled, they wouldn't let them have him, and it ended up being brought up in an adopted family. Victoria says, I think social workers treat families and anyone with a disability unfairly and don't take into account everyone's views.
It's a real struggle, isn't it, for so many people?
It's quite heartbreaking. Kelly says, I'm a single mum who has learning difficulties, and a disability. I've been in the same situation Indigenous people in your piece, and it's a really hard situation. I'm going to try and fit in one more, Dan. Helen says, going through children's services is the most harrowing experience anyone can go through, let alone for someone who is vulnerable. I got to say thank you all so much for your messages, particularly those who are living with disabilities as well. Really, really appreciate your stories and your voices.